This is the Shine On You Crazy Daisy podcast, and I'm your host, Trudy Simmons from the Daisy Chain Group, providing platforms for women entrepreneurs to be seen and heard. This platform is for women entrepreneurs that want to hear the real stories of what it takes to be yourself and run a business with all the different hats that you might have to wear. These are the stories of the tenacious, the rebellious, and the resilient women that are working towards the future that they want to build for themselves and their families. I am thrilled and excited to introduce you to the wonderful Helen Emery from the Painted Dragonfly. Helen, welcome. Thank you so much for being a part of Shine On You Crazy Daisy, and tell us about the Painted Dragonfly.
Morning, Trudy. It is lovely to be here. Thank you for having me. So the Painted Dragonfly is a mobile pottery painting business. I'm based in Winchester, and I bring ceramics to your door so that you can enjoy them from home.
Great idea. I can't wait to get into that. But first of all, reading your chapter, and what I know other entrepreneurs go through, and it isn't talked about a lot, is that you came through post-traumatic stress from in your corporate career and then starting your business. How did that manifest itself, and how did you come through that for yourself?
So the post-traumatic stress was a miscarriage that I suffered in March 2017, and that absolutely devastated me. And something that I don't mention in my chapter is that my little boy, who's now 6, was born the third round of IVF. So having had 2 rounds that went wrong, having then had the third round, and then finding out I was pregnant naturally, and then losing it within 2 weeks. Absolutely, it just completely floored me. And the difference was between that and the IVF was that I was having flashbacks, and I mean I was just a complete wreck, and I didn't know how to deal with the grief. So and there's very little help out there as well for miscarriage sufferers.
Yeah.
So
how did you manage to pick yourself up? How did you get through that?
It was part and parcel of almost being in the right place at the right time, actually. There was a local miscarriage support group based here in Kingsworthy. I mean, who would have guessed? And it's actually what at the time, I don't know if this is all right, but at the time it's one of the only groups outside of London, which, you know, considering that 1 in 4 pregnancies they think end in miscarriage is just incredible that there isn't more support. And also a very chance conversation with a friend of mine who is a trauma psychologist. She actually knew of somebody who deals with these kind of family-based issues, and she was also based about 4 or 5 miles away and had space to see me. And that very first conversation that she had with me was, don't worry, you are not mad, you are not crazy, you will get through this, I will help you. And that is just incredible to find that help.
It's to hear that, isn't it, in so many circumstances when we're validated in our feelings and that we're not mad, that this is happening. Sometimes it's that validation that can then kickstart the recovery as well.
Yes, yeah. Absolutely. And having that space to be able to talk about it, or just sit and cry, or you know, just to do whatever you need to do. And I know that when it was at my worst, the only way I can describe it is that I felt like I was just clinging on to a cliff edge with my fingers, and not knowing what was underneath me. And it's quite a frightening experience, actually. So yeah.
Wow. And through all of that, and in reading your chapter, and having known you for a while, I didn't know this about you, but the fact that you were an engineer and now your business is pottery, and you describe in the book hanging up your hard hat and steel-toed boots. How do you go from, what's the story of going from being a full-on engineer to pottery?
So I had worked with a few female engineers before I had my son, who had children, and I'd watched them. It was very difficult for them to be full-time engineers and full-time mums. It just didn't go together. And I realized very soon that actually my career was not going to progress unless I was able to work full time. And I was 38 by the time I had my little boy, and I just thought, no, I've spent all this time waiting to be with him. I am not going to now work full time and not have the time with him. So I could see that going on in the background, and it made it very difficult as well to go back to work. I mean, you know, being a male dominated world, men work full time. I mean, that is the way it is, isn't it? And you know, I would work, before I had Matthew, I'd work 45 hours a week easily without even really thinking about it. And if there was stuff that needed doing, I would stay on and do it. And that all changed when I had Matthew. And I knew that things were just never going to be the same again. And it was a very hard decision. Very hard thing to come to terms with, the fact that, you know, women are told we can have it all. Actually, there's always a compromise.
Yeah.
And for me, that was my compromise, was my engineering career. I knew that I couldn't pursue it as I had once intended. And so therefore I then had the seed planted by one of our other crazy daisies, who said, you know what, why not start your own business? And I'm like, okay, yeah, I can do that. But then it took me years to actually then come up with the idea, because I knew that it had to be sustainable, it had to be viable. I had to feel like I was putting money into the joint account every month. You know, I didn't want to be kept as such. So it took me a long time to actually come up with something that I thought, yep, I could do this and I could enjoy it and I could make some money. And it came about that it was one of these chance conversations that I'd ordered some mugs for Christmas, and I was told that they wouldn't be here. But you can have them, and you can have them in January. Well, that's no good to me, is it? They've got handprints like made into holly. So and so then that was it. The idea was born, and I was like, oh my goodness, this is what I could do. I didn't know if it would work, but I thought I could do that. So there we go. That's how I got the idea. And then my husband's family are from Stoke-on-Trent, which a lot of you will know is known as the Potteries. And my father-in-law used to be a ceramicist with Moorcroft. And actually, once I started to do this, and the more I got to chat to him, the more I actually found out that the Emerys are pretty big in Stoke. Wow. So it feels as well that I'm just kind of carrying on that a little bit in my own way, obviously.
It's just such an incredible difference, isn't it, from that engineering and that the field that you're in, but also the environment that you were in, to what you're doing now. I love the story.
Yeah, it is very, very different. Yeah.
So one of the things that you talk about in the book is being a role model for your children. Why is that important for you?
So I grew up with my mum as the role model really for both mum and dad, and it was very important for me that I saw her working, I saw her looking after me and my sister, and I just felt that I needed to convey that role model to Matthew and to other children as well, to other girls, because I mean, we've talked about my engineering career, and one of the things that I really enjoyed doing was mentoring, school mentoring, especially within like the STEM kind of areas. But I now have this very this awkward balance whereby I want to encourage the girls into STEM, but I also want them to go in eyes open, that when they progress in their career, they're going to have to make these choices. And I think as long as you know that when you're starting to make those decisions, that's fine. But it feels like a very very tricky line to walk along.
Yeah. It's incredible that also that you, in being that role model and in being able to speak to people realistically about what it is like to be in the engineering industry, it's something that you can pass on and leave as a legacy for others and to help them through that. And I think you're right in knowing those choices. It gives you so much more opportunity in being able to be whatever you want, having that all, as long as you're willing to make those choices.
Yeah, and I think that if you're given that choice, you're empowered to make that decision. Sometimes it's being told that, you know, if we go back to me getting over the post-traumatic stress, it's okay to sit there and cry. Okay, I will do that then. You know, it's okay to go to sleep for a couple of hours. I think sometimes we need to be told that it's okay to do something, and then we feel like we can do it.
I love it. What is one lesson that you have learned that you would want any other entrepreneur to know?
I think it is to take that leap of faith. At some point, you have got to make that jump, whether it's from setting up or leaving your job to going it alone. You've got to make a leap, and I think that would be my advice, is that you have to take that leap.
And make the leap and have faith in yourself whilst doing it.
Yeah. The net will appear. I can guarantee it.
I love that, because there is that feeling of jumping and the net isn't there. But if you have faith in yourself, then the net is there. It's just finding what that is for you.
And I would also like to say that from having made that decision to leave engineering in March, my whole demeanour has changed, and everybody has said that I am walking taller, I am smiling, I am so much happier person. It's hard work, don't get me wrong, but you know, I'm doing it for me and I'm doing it for my family.
Amazing, I love it. What is a business book that you would recommend to people?
Well, as I happen to have it here, am I allowed to give a little plug? It is by the rather fantastic Abby Broad, and it's Does It Really Need to Be This Hard? And it is a book written for ladies in their 40s who are starting their own business, and it goes through 7 big struggles, and it is brilliant. And you read it and you think, oh my goodness, she knew me when she wrote it. It's great. Love it.
Love that. Thank you so much, Helen. It has been a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you.
And thank you for writing the chapter for Shine On You Crazy Daisy. And I can't wait for people to read it and take out the gems that you've put in there. Thank you, love.
Thank you very much, Trudy.
Thank you so much for watching the Shine On You Crazy Daisy podcast. If you've liked what you've seen today, then please make sure that you click the subscribe button to this channel to see more inspiration and motivation as more of these stories keep coming out. And if you want even more, click on the link below this video and go and have a look at the series of books Shine On You Crazy Daisy and get even more inspiration and motivation for you and your business.